Hey, everybody, welcome to the SaaS Founders Show. We're back here for the new year. I'm your co host, Tony Zayas, joined by Andy Halko, our founder at Incivia. Andy, how are you doing? What is your New Year's resolution?
Oh, Tony, man, that is a tough question. I haven't even made a New Year's resolution yet. So now you're putting me on the spot. How about you? You tell me what your New Year's resolution is.
Every year my New Year's resolution is pretty much the same. It's, do the things you're supposed to do less of the things you're not supposed to do, and be good to people. So I don't know, something like that. I try
That
not to
sounds
do
pretty
New Year's
good.
resolutions because it kind of sets you up to fail.
Well, then I'm stealing yours for sure.
Very cool. Well, excited to be back for essentially a new season. We took some time off from the show, and excited. We have a great lineup here over the next couple of months of really exciting founders. So we'll just get into today's. We have Ninh Tran. He is from Snapbrillia. And just to give you guys an idea of what they do, they're an AI-powered interviewing and technical assessment platform that accelerates the quality of hires and actively works to eliminate systemic biases and disparities in the technical hiring process. Super interesting stuff. So with that, hey, Ninh, how you doing?
Hey, guys. What's up? Happy New Year.
You too. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you. Just to get started, if you can, I read the descriptor, but tell us about the business. What do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us here. So Snapbrillia, I started that because before Snapbrillia, I was doing Harchul, and over there I helped hire almost 1 million people just during COVID, just in 2020. That's a good milestone and good achievement. I think I can sleep pretty well with that at night. But because we serve companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook and all of these Fortune 10, 50 companies, huge companies, very blessed to be able to do that, right? But I saw that because companies are hiring so quickly and so fast, they don't really have even a ton of diversity in their hires, especially in tech, and they can't afford to be super picky or exclusionary to any underrepresented group. And at the same time, they have to hire the best people fast. A lot of times, like the goals where, yeah, we want to hire, 3-5 million people in 5 years. I'm like, okay, good luck with that, right? Someone would say, good luck with that. The internal recruiting leaders that were pulling their hairs, how can we actually achieve it right now? Maybe they're doing, 500K the whole year, so they want to 10x in 5 years. How can we achieve that? How can we find new channels? And with my previous company, we provided additional channels to them. But then when they got a lot of applicants and a lot of people to apply and get them to talk about the job, a lot of people also got rejected. So imagine you're getting a ton of leads, right, for your positions, and somehow you're still rejecting a ton of people. You're disqualifying those leads because they're supposedly don't meet the bar, but at the same time, the bar these days is set by, randomized, non-practical coding assessments that don't really have anything to do with the day-to-day engineering technical job. It's something that like new graduates are grinding for months, right? And then once they start the job, it's like, yeah, it's completely different, something else. I mean, they do have value. They test computer science and other fundamentals, things that people would learn in school, but it's not really indicative of real work performance once they start on the job itself. So that's why we set out as Snapbrillia to change, to build an AI-powered coding assessment and interviewing platform that has the practical real-world tests and helps companies test candidates even from their own projects. What is a better way to see if someone's good than to give them a project from your own stack, right? And see how they do within 30, 60 minutes, improve candidate experience, because nobody wants to just grind textbook, and go back to college after you've had like 10, 8 years of experience coding and you've proven yourself, right? And also make sure that the interviewers and the hiring process throughout the whole enterprise hiring is as fair as possible. You gotta realize none of us are born as great interviewers. Some of us are. I've met some. Like hit it right on the ball, but most of us, interviewing is definitely a skill that can be trained and learned. And we use AI technology to measure and to give insights to interviewers and how they could improve, especially when it comes to unconscious biases that they may have between one or other group. And because of that, we help companies power their recruiting, their top of the funnel, increase the conversion rate to help them hire the best people faster from any walk of life.
So I'm always interested to hear from the perspective of like, what would a day in the life of one of your customers look like using your software? So like, how do they get started? How do they use it? And how does it impact their day?
So I'd say we have two types of customers, maybe three. On one side, it's kind of the engineering hiring user, whether it's interviewer or hiring manager. On the other side, we have the recruiting side, right? It could be a recruiter or a recruiting leader, CHRO, CTO on the other side. And the last one is the job seeker, right? The ones that use it the most are going to be engineers and recruiters, right? So from the recruiter point of view, they would post a job or they would source a candidate somewhere on LinkedIn or Halko or wherever, right? Bring them in, do phone screen, and then put them into like an application tracking system. It's like a database of candidates that they use. And then from there, they would pull and integrate with our system and just tell us, hey, why don't you
Tony, did you lose his mic?
Yeah, I think we just lost your audio. Yeah.
New Year's technical challenges. I will say I did think of a New Year's resolution, though, Tony, is that I'm going to bring mohawks back in style.
Okay, that's a big one.
So
it's a tall task.
Everybody will have one by the end of the year, just so you know. But while he's getting ready, I will say the process of evaluating the right folks is always a challenge. Still can't hear you.
Oh, give me 1 second, because
there we go.
I cannot hear you.
Okay, you can't hear us?
Give me a second. Let me go grab headphones real quick. 1 minute. Sorry, guys. Be right back.
Well, you're okay. So now we got to talk about hiring, right, Tony?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great conversation because, it's such a challenge universally, especially technical people hiring good, developers, engineers, et cetera, is really hard. Such a competitive environment. And then you're facing the great resignation. And we're actually going to be talking on a webinar about this pretty soon, but hiring is always a big challenge. So I'm super excited, to dive in, go a little bit further with him.
Well, we're hiring a bunch of roles, right, for our own company, and I've been going through resumes.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, you guys can't hear me. The problem is I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Let me see if I can do this real quick. Say something.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Maybe a little bit of an echo.
Let me.
Good.
Okay, yeah, we're good now.
Awesome.
Well, Tony and I were just talking about the challenges of hiring. And I was telling Tony that we're hiring right now in a number of technical roles. And I think to your point, I look at resumes and I don't know whether they're good or not. You know, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And so that is a challenge. And it sounds like your solution really helps solve that.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, resumes are biased themselves, right? You need experience to gain experience. For my hiring, and I hired hundreds of people, interviewed thousands of people. I realized that the best hires I've had were always super passionate, and they had grit, demonstrated interest, and had the right attitude to like can do attitude, can jump into it. And if you mix that with the right expertise, the domain knowledge, that's super powerful.
We lost your audio again. We'll chalk this up to Y2K cause these problems. Y2K22, right? I blame everything these days on Y2K. I pretty much think if anything goes wrong, it's Y2K.
Yeah, all on me, guys. Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Awesome. So for resumes, right? Just because someone adds like, "Hey, I know Python, I know Java, I know JavaScript," doesn't mean that they're actually proficient or can code at all. So a lot of employers, let's say, and the reason why solutions like Snapbrillia exist in the first place is because you post a job, and if you're enterprise, then you get thousands of applications to your job, and maybe right now the hiring throughput for applicants to hire is about 0.02%. So maybe out of 1,000 applications, you may get 2 hires, right? And imagine you have to read through 1,000 resumes to get those 2 hires, and that's hiring today, right? And there's matching software will surface like better resumes up and all of that, but at the end of the day, you wouldn't know whether they can actually do the work unless you give them a project, unless they, and in the worst case, unless they just start, right? And I love giving people chances, right? I do that all the time at Snapbrillia. But I also found out that, if you give a person like a hands-on project, something that they would do in their regular daily job, then that is as good as a work sample. Work sample is very much a number one predictor of how well someone's gonna do on the job. Work performance has about 63% correlation. Way better than interview skills. Someone can be excellent interview and can BS their way into, yeah, I can actually code, but when it comes to I can't, and then once you hire someone, you're stuck with them, right? You gotta give them a chance and so on, and that's all good, but make better hiring decisions. And as all entrepreneurs, Andy and Tony, you guys have hired people, right? You know that it's all about the people. It's all about the people.
Yeah. So I'd love to shift a little bit into hearing your entrepreneurial story. We're here trying to talk to founders and give them an idea of what's it like to build a business. So It sounds like you were involved in another company before, but what was your kind of entrepreneurial journey? How did you get into, this idea of I want to start my own thing and I want to be lead?
Yeah, so for me, I started kind of late or normal, I guess. Yeah, my whole family is entrepreneurial. They own small businesses, all over the place. In Czech Republic, in Vietnam, in US, like all over the place. And they used to do like a brick and mortar business, right? Restaurants, hotels, and so on, right? And they went from nothing. Literally, my mom, she went from $10 in a pocket to owning several beachfront hotels now. So I've seen her work hard and to take care of us, right? Me and my younger brother, like day in and day out. And she was actually, a single mom uh, at that time. So she remarried and so on. So and retired now, right? And she was able to help her family, uh, my family, the aunts and uncles, start their own businesses. So I saw that and I said, hey, I could have a pretty decent life just living with my parents. Nothing, didn't have to do anything. But I really wanted to do something that I can be proud of myself and contribute to the society. And it didn't really hit me until I was in my last years of college. I always wanted to solve poverty and studied a bunch of stuff to be able to draft policies for that. And then I realized, at the end of the day, it's all politics. All the policies are there, right? Poverty is actually being solved by businesses today. Like if the economy does well, right? Look at China, right? Like food is Elon Musk even said food is pretty cheap these days, right? Even in Africa, they're solving poverty just because the economies are scaling, are starting to scale. So I realized, okay, well, I want to, if not poverty, then I want to have more impact myself, right? And how can I do that in business and entrepreneurship was the answer. I went to High School of Business in Berkeley and had an amazing entrepreneurial advisor, Kurt Bayer. And he helped me launch my first startup, Trucksound, which was, food truck tracking app plus ordering and so on. So that was super fun. I didn't know anything about startups or tech. Somehow we built the app, launched it, and was used by thousands of people. Um, but didn't know how to create a business. I only knew how to launch a cool app, right, at the time. So eventually we closed doors. Of course, there's a ton of things that I learned as a team of 12 people, help them get jobs at Facebook, Google, and all the big tech companies in the Bay Area. And I went to Google, retired there for a year. I was like, I just need a break for a year. Somewhere pretty not too bad, decent. And that was rough. That was rough, like a failed startup, but super rough for sure. I gained like 80 pounds, unlimited food, right? Over there, and yeah, and after a while, I just said, hey, this stuff is unlimited, all you can eat buffet, 6 hours a week work, right? And automated half of my work, so I did QA engineering, so I didn't really do much there. I felt bored and realized it's not for me, right? I'm a startup guy. I love to get my hands dirty, build something, have the big picture, see ideas come to life, and talk to people that say, hey, Nin, because of what you build, I can feed my 3 kids, right? To enable other entrepreneurs and people who are movers and shakers and people who want to make impact either in the world or at their own companies or even in their own life to be able to do that, right? Using technology and I saw, and then I saw our teammate at the time, right? Two guys, and they invited me to join the founding team. So I'm like, yeah, why not? Heck yeah, I'm kind of bored here, so let's do it. And again, we didn't know anything. Obviously, had a cool tech, people using it, had a ton of traction, but we didn't have a business model. The one that they kind of tried, that kind of taught, we kind of thought that it's going to work. It didn't, right? So we had to pivot, and we pivoted probably 6, 7 times, and we were really lucky and very blessed to be able to hit it again on the head with finding the right product market fit, finding the right pain point to solve, and quickly become number one product in that space. And the rest is history. High 8-figure ARR SaaS with high retention, with all the companies that you'd like to have as clients on your portfolio, and growing. But again, right, even seemingly had a ton of impact there. But even during COVID, over 940,000 people hired, right, in tech, in Google, Facebook, like, and hundreds, Visa, MasterCard, like, we had pretty cool logos. I realized, well, there's so much disparity right now, and there's so much going on, like so much bias, discrimination, and just bad interviewing that's happening today. No one's doing anything about it. No one's really doing anything about it. So I want to just create another company that has a deep core social mission at the center, and solve real problems that will help people change their lives. Like, arguably, if you go to school, right, or even if you don't go to school, but you put a ton of work and ton of effort to learn a craft, right, and then you can't get a job. For most people, right? Most people are not entrepreneurial. If you can't get a job, then that's kind of for nothing, right? You go and get a PhD, a master's degree, you can't get a job, And I have friends in my personal life who went to Berkeley, got masters, and they work retail right now, right? It sucks, right? They spent so much money, so much years. They're super smart, super talented, but because job search sucks. I remember when I was out of college and tried to search for a job, I'm like, you know what? I'll be an entrepreneur. Way better, way cooler. And even after my startup failed, right, to look for a job, but it was grueling. It's depressing. It's like lonely. And there's now support groups for job seekers, but like you don't get feedback. No one talks to you, right? You just apply 1,000 times, and it goes into the resume black hole, ATS, and it's because recruiters, you have to go through 1,000 resumes to get to hires, right? So it's so inefficient. And then you hop on a call, and interviewers, some are just straight up bad interviewers, right? So they add to your bad day. But I asked myself, well, when are the moments where people's lives really change, right? And one of them is when they graduate, or when they get to a point where they get a good job, a well-paying job, so they can start taking care of their families, have kids, buy a house, and so on, right? And so that's why Snapbrillia. We want to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to at least interview for the job that they can do, right? Yep.
And I would like to hear a little bit about, how you early on you identified and drew out those biases and disparities that exist that are specific to the technical hiring process.
Right.
how did you uncover that, and then how did you guys address it through the platform and the
Yeah.
assessments?
Oh yeah, for sure, right? So I have a ton of friends in tech. We are in the Bay Area, but I guess the closest person to me, I can't like I work in tech, but I'm Asian male. We're kind of majority in tech. Who cares, right? But even though uh, actually I grew up in Czech Republic, and I was one of the 3 Asian kids in my whole high school, like 1,000 people, right? So I've experienced a ton of discrimination in my life, in my early adolescent life. But then, uh, you know, my friends, people who discriminated against me after a year, 6 months, they became really close friends because they, you know, it instead of like the surface level fear and uh, kind of just fear of the unknown, the different, right? When they actually got to know me and got to know them, we started forming bonds. So it went from the superficial to real, right? But in tech, you don't like doing interviews. You don't have months to get to know the person, right? You just have 30 minutes, an hour at most, or even 6 hours, right? And the more hours you add, the more the whole interviewing process sucks. Because who like if someone asks you, hey, can you spend 6 hours to just interview and maybe you'll get a job? I'll say I don't have time for that at the moment, right now, right? Especially if I have kids to take care of and so on. And imagine if everybody wants to do that, right? All the big companies have multiple rounds of interviews, and that's what my wife was going through. She's a software engineering manager now, right? But in the past couple of years, just engineer, and she was getting maybe 30 to 40 messages a day. Hey, take this interview. I would like to talk to you. Love to have you join us. You perfect fit. I'm impressed with your background. All the BS, right? All the recruiting lingo. But once they get to it, like, okay, they want me to actually take an interview during my workday, so I have to take time off, right? They want me to finish the coding test. That's 4 hours coding test. That's unpaid, right? For a job that maybe will pan out, maybe it won't. I don't have time for that. It is so inefficient. And once she passes all these and gets to the on-site interview, she was telling me stories of people you know, just pretty much manhandling her during the interviews, like just telling her how to solve it, what exactly it is, and so on. And didn't let her even speak, or just stone face, stone wall, no interaction, no way uh, to connect. It's just bad interviewing experiences, right? Um, or people who told her, "Hey, because you're women, you can't code," just straight up like that, right? And like normally, I don't think that people are like that ignorant, but yeah, I can see that. Like interviewing is a skill, right? And unless like you don't have a third person a lot of times during interviews, right? So you don't know like what's happening actually during the interviews oftentimes. Sometimes companies have like a feedback person or like interview shadowing and feedback on feedback. But most companies don't because it takes resources, right? It takes training, it takes all that good stuff. Most companies, they just care about, hey, I just want to hire fast and good people. And they miss the insight. The ones that don't measure, they miss the insight that, okay, maybe there are things that they can improve significantly, small changes that can give them a significant boost when it comes to screening, selection, and interviewing, and improving and making the hiring process much faster and better for all sides. Interviews, they also complain the interviews are too long, right? I'm tired. I don't want to talk to like 20 people and at the same time have to deliver on my product tomorrow, right? Why not just 30 minutes and you tell me this is great, good guy, can do the work or not, right? Andy, I'm sure you've interviewed a ton of people, right? And sometimes you wish, man, I wish this could be easier.
I always think that.
Yeah.
It is. Well, and I'm hiring right now, and it is a
Yep.
huge challenge to go through. And like you said, look at code repositories or
Yep.
portfolios, and you could be missing a diamond in the rough.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's a nightmare, but it's something that we have to do, like as managers, as leaders, right? We have to hire the best people to be able to grow our business. It's all about people. Like at the end of the day, ideas, execution plans, relationships are done by people. Unless you give me like a robot AI worker that can do that, then I'll be out of business completely. Uh, but
100%.
that would be ideal, right? We can probably all retire and just live off AI. Okay,
Someday, that's the dream, right?
yeah,
um, I'm shifting gears a little bit. One of the questions we always hear related to founders is how'd you get initial customers? So you've got this idea, you start to build an app. Okay, how do I actually start making some revenue from it when I have no track record? So what did
yeah.
that look like for you?
Um, my advice is don't look at not having track record. Everybody starts somewhere, right? Everyone, including myself, we start somewhere, and we starting somewhere again and again. And sometimes you go back to the beginning with nothing, right? And that's a beautiful part of the entrepreneurial journey, right? When you have nothing and you create something. Now, the process of creating something hopefully is towards product market fit, and how you achieve product market fit. So at the initial journey of TruckSound, we had traction, and it was about implementing business model. It's a little bit different, right? But product market fit is more like where Halko at the time, where we were like we built a job board, and then we realized there's a bunch of job boards already. No one cares, right? So we pivoted into candidate relationship management system, or ATS, and then there's a bunch of those, so no one cares, right? So we had to actually talk to, instead of making random ideas ourselves. So, oh, this would be super cool to build, right? To actually talk to the end users, right, and see what is their biggest problem, right, in hiring or in whatever they're hiring for, right? Whether it's software engineers and so on. So same with Snapbrillia. We just talk to the end users, the recruiters, the engineer managers, the leaders, interviewers, CTOs, you know, recruiting leaders, job seekers. What is the problem that they have when they're searching for a job, when they're trying to hire an engineer, right? And listen. Don't have anything to say. Just listen. Ask good questions, right? And synthesize this information. Sometimes you might even want to say, "Hey, do you mind if I just go and hang out with you for an hour and watch you work, right? While you assess or when you schedule interviews or when you do whatever it is that we're trying to solve, and see, okay, are there any are there, is what is the hardest part of their work, right? That they're doing right now. How do they go about solving, let's say, finding contact information once they find a candidate? How they go about like finding the right candidate and then reaching out to them, right? And whenever you see like they're switching screens or they're doing like, oh man, pulling the hair, or whenever you see like they have a win moment, like, oh yeah, I found that contact and now I'm gonna reach out to them and they said yes to me. That's real business value there, right? And with if you're able to build a product and solution that can repeat these high moments for the end user, whether you're able to shadow them or not, or if they say, hey, yeah, you know, for me, I'm not getting enough uh, good technical talent into my pipeline. Most people that interview are rejected, right? We don't have enough diversity. I spent 3 times the amount of work to get less than half of the hires for from underrepresented groups. And I don't even have time to focus on diversity hiring, right? Because there's nobody. There is nobody, and the people that I bring in, they can't pass the coding test, right? Then, that's fundamentally something that's truly frustrating people. And then you have to ask, like, how much do you actually care about that, right? Is it a real problem, or are you saying it just to be cool, right? And that's what I found with Snapbrillia, like diversity, equity, inclusion, right? It's a very controversial topic for many. There are people that truly care, and they're like super champions, and they want to have more inclusive teams. Some people, they don't care. They just, yeah, diversity is cool, but I still want to hire the best, because they may not know. Okay, the best may be looking like anything, right? Anything, and they say, yeah, I don't look at color or skin or race or whatever. And although that sounds well, and that sounds good, right? I'm colorblind, pretty much, right? Uh, when you actually measure the data, when they go on a call with someone who's different skin color, whether bright or dark, right? They already have assumptions in their mind, right? Despite them saying, hey, I don't see color. Oh, this guy's already not going to be good. Or, I don't want to look at anybody who's over 40 because X, Y, they cost more, they don't work as hard. Yeah, that's the stuff we're dealing with, right? So get really deep into, is it a huge problem? And do people care about this, right? Obviously, hiring managers, some, they don't care about over 40. They wouldn't, and you have to have a really close relationship with the person to be able to extract this information. No one's just going to say, yeah, Nin, I'm racist. No one's going to say that, right? When did you hear anybody say that? I am racist. Even racist people don't say I'm racist, right? They say, oh, it's their problem, but because of X, Y, Z, whatever. But you got to synthesize, okay, why it happens, right? And if people say, if there's any way that I can get more underrepresented groups in your interviews to pass your coding tests and to do well in your job, would that work for you? Absolutely yes. Most people, absolutely yes, right? And if I ask them, if it takes some education and improving your interviewing process and your coding challenges and the way you assess and interview candidates, would you be willing to make the change? And they said, some would say, absolutely yes, I'll do it today. And some would say, okay, I want to know more. And that's good enough. That's when okay, you have a viable business, you have a viable product. Validate every feature and every step, right? And that's how you reach product market fit. And after you have product market fit, like after you build something people love, that drives real business value, makes someone's life easier, gets people hired, or whatever it is that you're working on, saves lives, increases revenue, makes things easier, faster, cheaper, right? Then making money is easy. That's what I also learned after failing at doing business models a couple of times. Yep.
So the foundation is really that product market fit.
Yeah.
But, I'm curious. So were those folks that you interviewed in those early stages to learn product market fit, did they end up becoming customers, or did you have to get on the phone?
Yeah. Thanks for pulling me back to your original question. So in the road to earn product market fit, you got to realize, like, a lot of people that you interview and you connect with, they're not going to become customers, and that's fine. But as long as you can fill the need of people like them, right? Whether they're engineering, hiring manager or they are, recruiting leader, like companies that are hiring and tech engineers, right? If you can solve one company's problem, highly likely, that problem exists at all different companies. So some of those people, and it's a volume game. Like sales is about volume, right? Volume and conversion, really. So it's about getting enough people that you talk to that have, and some of them will have immediate need, and the timing is right, and they have budget, and they want to buy, right? And you have to gauge that relationship. Is this a customer potential, right? Even during the beta stage or the road to product market fit stage, right? And ask them, if I launch this today, or if I had all these features or the roadmap, right? Uh, could we do business? And they'll tell you, hey, and this is kind of tricky. They'll tell you, oh, I need these features, or I need this integration, or I need this and that, right? And then that's fine. Right? If I can do all these things, then are we in business, right? And then I need what else I need, right? But keep in mind, you got to talk to the right person, right? Um, Ideally, you would have a decision maker, right? The buyer.
All
Um,
those requests can take you off track sometimes, so you have to
yeah,
be careful
yep,
about that, right?
yeah, exactly. But the cool thing is, what if I build all this, then are we in business? And if they say yes, and then you ask enough times, you can say, okay, well, all these 10 people, they asked for these 5 things, they are the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these 5 things are not the same; it's just their own thing. So you can go back and on the next interview, you can say, if I build these 5 things, right, are we in business? Only these 5 things, and they could say yes or no. And maybe you're a software that has to be super customized. If that's your case, I'm very sorry, it's not as a scalable, unless they pay you a couple $1 million to customize the business. That's also an option. Just the business model changes, right, depending on your type of solution and your type of market. Yeah.
Then, from a growth and marketing standpoint, what are some of the tactics that have been successful that have helped you grow the business?
Yeah. Um, people, first time I thought about advertising and spending it, I need to have millions of dollars to get market share and the word out and whatnot. But I learned it's the best marketing channel is actually word of mouth. People and product focused growth, right? When you build something that people love and they can talk about, the topic is controversial enough, right? That people can talk about during dinners or with their friends, or it just works and it's so good that people just recommend it all the time, right? Uh, you want to tap into the community, like every industry, no matter how large, whether sales, marketing, HR, recruiting, hiring, whatever, right? It's pretty small. Like you have millions of people. There's over a million people, a million recruiters in the U.S. Right? It's a large number. But when you think about it, the people that really lead the industry is about 10%, right? Like let's say 100,000, and out of those that actually engage in a community, probably less than 10% of that. So about 10,000 people, right? Uh, And when you think about, okay, how can I get into the HR tech or hiring or recruiting, whatever? I just need to get to the top, the person that everybody listens to, right? That one influencer, that one person that everybody's like, and you can ask, like, who's your go-to expert in this space, right? Who's your go-to expert for recruiting, for hiring? Who do you listen to? Right? For hiring, could be different. For recruiting could be different. But then you reach out to them, you build a relationship, and you tell them your story, just like I'm telling you guys, right? And you pick their brain on the topic. Same thing. Like, what do you think about diversity, equity, inclusion? What do you think about hiring and tech and all that good stuff? and take it as a product market fit interview, same thing, because these influencers, experts, they would have a good pulse on what the industry needs, what companies are looking for, what products are there, right? What is not there, and what is truly needed, feature-wise, whatever-wise, right? So build a good relationship. They're intrinsically motivated to push their industry and um, their role, their profession forward, and oftentimes they love new technologies, right? And 10,000s are in the community, and maybe 5,000 listen to them, to that one person, and you have a half community already. And they may write a blog or do something when you launch, right? Uh, like this podcast, right? And people get to know about it. They listen to it because they subscribe, right? And they've had good insight and feedback from past episodes or things that they've done. And so, like, knowledge that's valuable spreads fast because everyone wants to be better. The people that want to be better at their job, they proactively seek out knowledge and want to improve themselves, right? And that's really 10%. They, that will tell the rest of the 90%, right, how to go about doing that. What's the coolest new technology that's going to help us to get to, the 1,000% growth or whatever. Yeah.
Now that's super interesting. I would say, just to go further on the whole idea of word of mouth, I think over the last couple of years, everyone has learned a lot about viruses and
Yeah.
the idea of viral marketing, going along the lines of word of mouth. I'm a big believer that in order for things to spread quickly, it has to be easily understood and consumed. So obviously human beings love stories, and the more simple something you share with me is, then the more likely I am to pass that on to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get to distill that story down to a simple matter that people understood and then would share with others, or did that just come naturally for you?
Yeah. Our premise is, did you know that if you're Black or Hispanic, right? Did you know that Blacks or Hispanic, if they apply for a tech job, right, they're 50% more likely to be automatically rejected in the first 3 stages of hiring. That's why you don't have, underrepresented groups in tech. Like, everyone's working so hard to get them in. And then when you say that, people will have opinions immediately. That's not true, or it's true, or whatever. You want the reaction. And you gotta have, and Tony, you said simple. Perfect. This is pretty simple, right? It's something that people, if they work in the industry, they can relate to, right? Everyone. If you're hiring, you get it. If you're a leader that cares about, hey, I want more diversity in my company so that we can withstand different changes in how the economy, the market changes, and so on, right? We want to serve more audiences, more consumer base. You get it, right? And you've tried. A lot of times you've tried. Like, this month I only focus on hiring female engineers. You've tried. Like, you gave it 110%, and then you realize it's impossible, and you didn't know why, because you don't have, So hearing that would say, yeah, it makes sense. So what, right? What do I do about it? And you want them to start a conversation, right? Or once kind of the conversation starts, get to a point where people actually start recommending your solution, right? And the message should be simple, something that people can repeat over and over and over again, right? So with Halko was recruiter's best friend. We're recruiter's best friend. Our mission is to, make your life easier every day, because recruiters' lives suck, man. Because of hiring sucks, right? Recruiting sucks. Nobody helps them, right? They're always taking care of job seekers, and they get they get all the crap about not giving feedback and lying and all the BS. You have impressive background when I talk to you, but sorry, you're not a good fit, right? So they get all the BS from hiring, and oftentimes the hiring manager is like, yeah, he's not a good fit or she's not a good fit, and so on, right? So nobody's helping them. If there's some technology that's helping them, they're all about it, right? So making stories, making whatever you're pitching, marketing more human, right? Because ultimately, people are using it unless you're selling APIs to make it super technical. And also, it's again about developers' life, right? They don't want to wake up every day and be like P0 all the time and try to, fix the server at 4 a.m. every single day. So make it human. Like, hey man, do you get up at 3 or 4 a.m. every day to fix the server? Oh yeah, it's terrible. Hey, try this. It really saved me and my team. Like, I'm sure the guy will. Oh, what was the name of the solution? Let me write down. Right. Yeah.
So what do you see? What's in the future for Snapbrillia? Like what do you see? How do you see growing in the next 5 years? What kind of interesting things do you envision happening? What's the future look like?
Yeah. 1 million people that wouldn't normally get a job to get a job, right? In tech, high-paying jobs, that are fulfilling, that are not dead end, that can increase the economy and ultimately, like beyond these 5 years, it's people that will eventually gain the skills and the experience and then go on and build solutions to the problems that they care about and their communities care about. One thing that I've seen, someone told me during conversations, like, yeah, there's a ton of tech companies that say they care about diversity, inclusion, equity, and all that because, recruiting, it's cool to care about DEI because everybody's that cares about DEI is cool. And most companies, they just put it as hey, we have like a blind hiring mode, or we can help you find diverse candidates as a feature, but their core business is still just recruiting and hiring, right? So they can afford to just have it as a feature. But if we position our business, this is our core focus. Mm-hmm. This is what we do, and this is what we care about. The innovation and the spend, the time, the amount of thought that goes into solving this problem is not limited, right? It's not just, hey, we just want to build something to check a box for companies, right? To essentially say, yeah, we care about diversity because we have this one thing, or we help you with blind hiring, whatever, right? To go deeper into that, because this problem is a huge problem. It's like not just tech problem, it's huge in society everywhere, like globally too. Like, you can imagine in China or anywhere else, they're all Chinese, so they don't have these problems, right? But they have problems. They have, ageism everywhere, right? But also, hey, he's coming from this province or this geographic location. They must be like totally bonkers. Why would you ever hire them, right? So you got a ton of that, like everywhere, and there's a ton of problems to solve, and you can't solve it just to solve it, just to check a box, but you can really solve it, really educate the companies and the individuals that are hiring to hire better people, right? They say A players hire A players, mm-hmm. and B players hire B players, and so on. What if we had a way to have everybody be able to hire up their skill, not down, right? That would be extremely valuable to you, right? Like if you didn't have to interview at all, right? Be like, wow, that's and know that you hired, like, you're solid, right? Mm-hmm. That is, people at the end of the day is the unfair advantage that any business, unless other business take poach and improve, employees, right? That's your core. And if we have like really skilled, really talented people that have experience building cool things, right? Who are, I don't know, Hispanic, Black, female, whatever, and then they go on and start being entrepreneurs themselves and start building solutions. Most underrepresented communities, they don't benefit from the tech growth today, right?
Yeah.
They're still where they are, right? And so if you have somebody coming from that community or close to that community or just being connected with that community and make it, and then they start building, I don't know, could be for-profit, nonprofit, could be any solution that makes, those guys' lives easier, or could be educating them, getting over whatever challenges they have day to day, right? Then those companies can benefit. They'll hire from their communities. The one reason why I started Trucksum was, a lot of previously incarcerated folks, they can't get a job because they just have a record, right? And so no one would hire them. And these food truck drivers, right, owners, they hire from their communities, and a lot of times they don't care. Like, you've been in jail before, but you can cook, so let's cook, right? Yeah.
Then before we ask you our last question to kind of wrap up here, just would love to give you a chance to share with people who have been watching and listening in best places where they can check out Snapbrillia, as well as learn about you and follow what you're up to.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Snapbrillia, very simple, snapbrillia.com, right? Just like it says on my shirt, just add the .com. Snap, just like Snapbrillia, like brilliant, where we just chopped off the NT at the end to make it a little bit more feminine and cooler, for 2022 startup. And if you wanted to follow me, I'm very easy to find. Just Google Ninh Tran. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media out there. Ping me. I'd love to hear from you. Right? Would love to pick your brain on diversity, equity, inclusion, or technical hiring. If you're hiring engineers, happy to chat. Right? I can give you some pointers, or I just want to know, like, what are the issues that you see, right? Ultimately, we just want to build something that makes a real difference in the way people hire engineers, in the way people are building their companies to be more inclusive, more diverse, and hire the best, regardless of who they are. Yeah,
That's great.
That's great. Yeah. So my question that I always like to ask at the end of these for founders is, if you were able to go back in time and have coffee with yourself before you started the business, what advice would you give?
Yeah. I would tell him, my younger self, right? For sure, do it. 100% do it. And don't care about pay as much, right? Money comes, and you're always going to be taken care of, no matter what, right? Money comes as long as you build something that people love and that's useful and it makes a difference. You don't have to worry about how to monetize. There's ways to monetize, however. So, use this.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I tell him, you're very blessed. You're very blessed. And the reason why you're blessed is because you were able to bless so many others. So keep on doing that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ninh. It was great talking to you today.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Tony. Great show. Just chatting. I love this format. Sorry about my mic. I think the battery just went out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. Thanks a lot. So Ninh Tran, Snapbrillia, check it out, guys. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you next time. Thanks again, Ninh. Take care.
Bye.